Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to week 16 of the fantasy football schedule and NFL schedule and playoffs and everything else that's fun. And we have Sutton with us. Hi Sutton. How are you? Good. Do you know what we're going to do today?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I don't know.
You do know. We do it all every Friday. Yes. Can you say that louder?
Peace picks.
Peas Picks. And we had a game between the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. And I would like to know who you would like us to talk about. Do you have a preference? You want us to talk about Denver?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you look up and say, see you later?
See you later.
Hey everybody, so Sutton chose the Denver Broncos, and we were just talking about it. You didn't watch much of the game. I pretty much watched the entire thing, start to finish. It was a good game. Like I was telling you, Denver pulled out to a nice lead early and looked like they were going to just cruise, and then all of a sudden the Chargers started back, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
And since you weren't watching, it was the first time in 50 years that they had.
I saw that. I did see that.
The fair catch free kick.
Yep.
So the guy was making. So Denver got the ball with 40 seconds, just under a minute, I think, in the first half, and they started with a pass. And it was a completion. I don't remember if it was out of bounds or what. And then they ran another play that was an incompleted pass.
Okay.
And they were sitting there with 20, 15 seconds or so left. And they decided to run it and didn't get the first down. Okay. So immediately, Chargers call a timeout and they punt. And the guy signals a fair catch, and a guy runs into him, or clips his leg, knee with knee, goes down. Denver recovers. Well, it didn't matter. You ran into the guy. 15-yard penalty, 57-yard. All he does is has his holder standing there or sitting there. No one can block or anything. No one can move. 57-yarder. Good. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
I think I saw that was like the first free kick since 1967 or
70 something.
70,
yeah.
70 something.
It was the Chargers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah. And it was funny because I think it was late in the game that Dan Fouts must have called in and said, that kick 50 years ago, he was the one that had to talk to the coach and tell him that it was even a rule that you could do that.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, I had heard of it, and it was Ray Wershing who kicked it, and I mean, I remember Ray Wershing just like I remember Dan Fouts. I mean, these guys were when I was 10 years old. And it was interesting, and they were talking about it as it was playing out, and they're like, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh even knows about this, and so it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Denver ended up losing the game. Nix had a really good game. He was 29 for 40, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 rushes for 25 yards. He was in control of the game.
Yeah.
But in the second half, they just didn't do what they needed to do. They couldn't get the first downs they were getting. It's interesting because they started off the game and it was pretty much run, pass, run. Between Williams and Estime, it was all them on pretty much on the first drive, with Estime getting the touchdown, and it just they got away from that run thing, in the second half.
Yeah,
and
did they go into half tied?
No, they were up. They were still up 8.
Okay.
Yeah, they were still up 8. So I mean, they came out and they didn't look as sharp. So
yeah.
Next up, we've got Audric Estime. No targets, 9 rushes, 48 yards, and a touchdown. And that's what I mean. I mean, a lot of that was on the first drive, including the touchdown.
Yeah.
And then we had Williams, who was 7 catches on 11 targets for 29 yards. 29 yards.
He was almost on, he was getting close to Alvin Kamara. Was that last season? Kamara had like 13 catches for 31 yards or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, similar. And then he had 4 rushes for 24 yards. So, and I think like the majority of those were on the first drive.
Yeah.
So they they didn't look good. Then we had Marvin Mims, 3 catches, 5 targets, 62 yards, 1 rush for 3 yards. The big play for him was he took a quick screen slash, it was just a quick, he was in motion, caught it, and he just kind of weaved through a couple of people and went along the sidelines, and boy, does that kid have some explosive speed. I mean, he just boom, and then he was by everybody. And then, there were guys still beyond him that finally were able to take him down. But, I mean, just the guys that were there, he just kind of zipped right by him and looked really good. And then we had Cortland Sutton, 5 catches on 6 targets for 50 yards. Now you can see that those 3 receivers accounted for 140 yards.
Yep.
Between the 2 quarterbacks, they hit, I believe it was 20 different targets.
Wow.
Not just, I mean, they completions by 20 different receivers in the game. So it was, on both teams, it was a guy had 1 catch on 1 target for 10 yards. Another guy had, it was just all kinds of small numbers of targets and catches. And, but it was weird to see because everybody pretty much had a catch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Denver looking, because getting towards the end of the year, I mean, they're not in playoff contention at all.
Oh, yeah.
They are?
Yeah, both of them. Oh. Yeah, they would have locked in.
Oh,
Denver
really?
would have locked in. The Chargers now are in a much better place. Yep. They're like, but even with the loss, Denver's like an 80% chance of making the playoffs.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, they've had they've had some ups and downs obviously this season, but as a whole as a team, they've been pretty quiet this year. I haven't heard a whole lot. I mean, you hear about Bo Nix, but as the Denver's team and as a whole, you don't hear a whole lot from, or of. But I mean, if they let the Chargers come back and win it, I mean, their defense hasn't been playing as well.
Well, they were great last week because they beat me. They had a pick 6. Well, they considered it a fumble. It was a backward lateral for that the guy picked off and took for 50-some yards for a touchdown.
So, I mean, to start the year, I mean, they were, truly shut down everybody kind of defense, and obviously it's a long season and, you guys get
injuries and all.
And injuries and, but, Denver, if Nix can carry this, into next season too, with the way some of these games where he's been playing where he's looked, really good. Like I said, the little bit that I did see, I agree, he looked like he looked like a veteran out there sometimes.
Yeah, they said he had 61 starts in college.
Yeah, well, he was in college for like 6 years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, you know,
And that's why they said he walks in.
There was a picture of Bo Nix back when he was at Auburn and Justin Herbert at Oregon. And it was like, you know, the caption was like, you know, this photo, whenever it was taken, is funny because Herbert's now been in the league for 5 seasons. And this is Nix's rookie year,
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Yeah. He's definitely older, but he looks very mature, as in his ability to see the field, to make the reads, to make the plays, to not do stupid things. You know, I think he's going to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, he's only probably a couple years younger than Herbert. So
I mean, they could be a year apart even.
Right,
You know,
right.
I mean, with how long Nix was in college, how many teams he played for.
Right.
But, you know, Denver, you know, for me, if, you know, I'm obviously no GM, I wouldn't be sitting here if I was, but, you know, I'd be only focused on offense, offensive weapons this year. I mean,
you look at what they've got.
Not it. You know, I mean, he'll be a
Well,
good backup.
Estime may be the guy.
Yeah, but
I mean, he
we
looks
know
like a
Javante's
decent-
not. I mean, he had what, like 2 big games this season.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the horrible knee
Jaleel
injury.
McLaughlin isn't the guy.
You
and-
know, they got to get somebody else aside from Cortland Sutton. You know,
right.
that's-
Well, they've been hoping that Mims would be, you know, one of those guys, but Mims has struggled with catching the ball.
Yeah, I think Mims is going to be what he is, which is, like you said, either take a short pass and make a move and go, or he'll be,
or he can
a
catch
burner
the
down
bomb.
the field.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he's another. Who's the guy from the Packers that we were
Watson?
joking? No. The guy who's playing for New Orleans or whatever. No, not New Orleans. Cleveland.
Oh, MVS.
MVS. Yeah.
For Cleveland.
Isn't it Cleveland?
No,
Wasn't
New Orleans. He's playing for
Oh,
the
it is
Saints.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, MVS. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's going to be the same type of career. Can't get his hands on the ball and keep it. And
Well, like I said, I mean, what we're seeing from Bo Nix, like I said, it feels like they're very similar to the Chargers, where it feels like they're a piece away. You know,
now
a
they
piece
also
or 2 away.
they also
Same
have
with
Tony
the Chargers,
Franklin. Troy Franklin.
who was a teammate of Bo Nix at Oregon.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah. And
he's
actually,
a real
he had-
small guy.
he-
he's not small. He's tall, but he's real thin.
Yeah.
So,
But he had some nice catches too.
Yeah.
He could come on. I mean, he's a rookie.
Yep.
So, maybe they'll do some building, but it would be nice if they could go get a stud. I mean, Sutton is good,
Yeah.
but he's not that good.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he's their top receiver and he's got good hands and everything, but I think they need another weapon.
Yeah.
Another big weapon.
Yep.
So, moving on, we've got our picks of the week. And CBS Sportsline in a standard league has Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Allen Jackson. No, that's not Allen Jackson. Josh Allen, Jackson, Hurts, Mayfield, and Kyler Murray. And I am going to go. You remember who I said I was considering last week?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with him this week. Going Aaron Rodgers. Going against the Rams. The Rams are one being the hardest. They're the 23rd points allowed to quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's looking better.
I think last week with the hyper fixation on Devontae Adams helped.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, because Adams had a gigantic,
Yeah.
a vintage Devontae Adams, Aaron
Right.
Rodgers game.
Right.
You know, I mean, Rodgers' stats still weren't like amazing. I mean, he had the 2 touchdowns to Adams and stuff. I mean, it wasn't one of his gigantic games, but
Right.
Adams had one of those true vintage, huge blow up games last week. So,
yeah. So, that could very well be a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is it's going to be a lot of quarterbacking, which is probably why you have who you have.
Yep, other side of not other side of the ball. The other team going Stafford against the Jets. Like I said, the Jets defense is they kind of mailed it in because they knew the season was done.
You mean to tell me Sauce isn't the best DB in football?
I feel like he can turn it on. He can be, but I just think this year he just it felt like that whole organization just didn't try. There's a lot of rumors coming out about ownership, and the one was that he went up to, who was it, Mike White or one of those guys. Is either Mike White or the other guy that they had in, and who was playing through like broken ribs. And after the game, the guy came in, the owner or whoever, and right to his face told him that that you suck.
Wow.
With a couple F words in there too. So. Yeah, so
Great guy.
sounds like I mean, we know what the Jets organization is, but they have been, at least the offense has been playing better.
I think doesn't that stand for JETS? Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this. We talked about the fact that Aaron Rodgers going to New York was not a good idea. He thought it was, which is great because, we made that the Packers made that trade, and it turned out great for Green Bay.
Yep.
And, my brother-in-law, who is a huge Jets fan, has to deal with mediocrity or not, they aren't even mediocre.
Below that, yeah.
I mean, they're horrible. So
Yeah, so, like, again, with that matchup, like I said, if we get that Rodgers-Adams combo again this week, and you mix in some Garrett Wilson, and I believe Breece Hall is back this week, so we'll see. He's got to figure it out too.
Well, he was back last week too.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't notice because he's been very disappointing.
I think he had a
this
touchdown
season.
last week. I benched him.
Yeah, he's been.
And I'm probably going to bench him
in the
again.
playoff. You just can't trust him.
Right.
So, but Stafford. Can get it done, obviously, with the weapons he's got. Last week, though, you had the Cooper Cup with 0, with the 1 target.
And
Just
lost.
Or was it 1 target or 3 targets? I think it was maybe
Three
3
targets.
targets.
Three
Yeah.
targets. No catches on 3 targets.
Yep. One of those two where, it's like this guy, aside from Puka, is your entire, offense. Well, and Kyron, your entire offense. You have to do whatever you can to get him involved. So I think I have a feeling they might overcorrect that this week.
I think so too.
Because obviously Puka's been playing out of his mind since he's been back. So the Jets are going to really focus on him, and I think and even when a defense focuses on Cooper Kupp, he's still so good and shifty that it really doesn't matter most times. So
right. Moving on, we've got our running backs. CBS says Gibbs, Bijan, Barkley, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry. And I am going to go with a team that's playing against the worst run defense for giving up points to running backs, and that is Connor at Carolina. He looked really good last week.
Yep.
Catching the ball, running the ball. I think it's going to be a repeat performance on a bigger scale. Yeah. I think he is going to challenge for the top running back this week.
I think Gibbs is going to be far and away the number 1 this week, just because of no Montgomery.
True,
but yes,
I mean, but they were going against a horrible run defense last week and didn't do anything.
Yeah. Gibbs had a pretty good game last week, didn't he?
Well, it was all right.
Yeah.
It wasn't earth-shattering.
Yeah. But I mean, Connor, if he has a good game, the Cardinals have a good game. That's kind of you can kind of tell in the first drive,
right,
what you're going to get out of the Cardinals offense, depending on what you watch James Conner, and he'll indicate how the day is going to go.
Right.
If he comes out and he's not running well, the team doesn't play well. But if he comes out and he's ripping runs and catching passes and stuff right away, it's going to be a good day. So, I mean, and he's, even when he was on the Steelers, with the whole Le'Veon Bell drama and everything, and then he comes out and, he was one of those waiver wire handcuff league winners the 1 year, and it was just crazy, and he's been solid ever since. So
he has.
it's a great matchup.
And didn't he sign an extension?
I think a 2-year extension. Yeah, which sucks for Trey Benson.
It does. It does.
Because I acquired him in Dynasty earlier this year.
Yeah.
So.
I was trying for him in one of them.
Yep. So, all right. I'm going getting the confidence back in Bucky Irving. He
I could use a big week from him.
Yeah, he was limited the first 2 practices this week, and then got a full practice today, or was still somewhat limited, but no injury designation, good to go. And against Dallas, who sometimes plays all right defense, but they
Overshone's out.
Yep. It's a very favorable matchup for running backs.
Right.
They're not very good against the run. And like I said, if Bucky's fully healthy, I didn't check on Rashad White's status because I remember seeing in that game, it looked like he had tweaked his knee pretty good. So I truly have no idea what's going on with White. I don't think he was on the injury report at all.
I do not have him on the injury from this past Monday or Tuesday.
And maybe if Bucky's full go and White's a little banged up, they're going to really lean on Bucky again. So
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Moving on, we've got our wide receivers. CBS says Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., Nakua. Well, and it doesn't surprise me because, was it? Yeah, it was this past week that he had the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yep.
So Nakua, Higgins, which surprises me, Evans, and Justin Jefferson. So I am going to do something. You know I don't like to do it. I'm stacking. I'm going Adams here versus the Rams. They are 25th, one being the worst, 25 being the best, or 32 being the best, 25th for points to receivers. And, like you said, it was vintage Rodgers Adams last week.
Yep.
And I see it continuing because, both of them, they're both, they like to win.
Yeah.
I don't, you could be the coach and say, or the owner and say, hey, we're trying to lose this game because we want a better draft pick.
Yeah.
And Rodgers would say, screw you.
Mm-hmm.
And Adams would say, you pay us to play football. Yep. I'm going to do everything I can to play and win.
Yep.
So, I think it's going to be a high scoring game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see it. Like we talked about with the first 2, neither defense is amazing.
Right.
They give up points. Actually, pretty similarly ranked, obviously 23rd for quarterbacks, 25th for receivers. So, there's a lot of those throws yesterday from Aaron to Devontae where you're like,
yesterday?
Seen that or last week. Sorry, I'm picking up on Sutton's lingo because everything when she remembers something, she always says yesterday. Like we'll put her down for a nap in the middle of the day, like on weekends, and she'll wake up and be like, "Yesterday, I
no, that was
whenever
morning,
went
sweetie.
to Target, and it's like that was 3 hours ago before you fell asleep, but everything's yesterday." So last week,
living vicariously through your child.
yeah.
Huh?
Last week, there were some of those throws where like I've seen that before.
Oh yeah,
where it's just he throws it and it's right where Devontae ends up, not where it's that throwing to the spot where he knows he's going to be.
Well, and it's so funny to have we're spoiled because we watched it for how many years, but that back shoulder throw.
Yeah.
And I watch some of the quarterbacks and receivers these days, and it's almost like they're not taught to do a back shoulder throw. If you're getting out there on a guy and he's beyond you, he's got you by a step, turn back and get the ball, away from him, behind him, and they're just not doing it. And it surprised me.
I think that the accuracy and arm talent it takes to do that is, there's only a handful of guys that have been able to do that. So
that could be.
Yeah. So, all right, my start of the week, I'm going JSN versus MIN.
MINN.
Jackson Smith in Jigba. He's I don't even remember. I don't even know what he's ranked. I know a couple of weeks ago, he was like the number 8 fantasy receiver or something like that. Like he's very quietly been having a very solid season because they're actually using him more down the field, unlike last season where his average depth of target was like maybe 1 yard.
Yeah.
It was a lot of at the line or behind screens and stuff. They're getting him out there a little bit more and a little farther down the field. And Geno throws for a bunch of yards every season. He has for the last couple seasons. So, and Minnesota's the best matchup for receivers. So receivers do, that's the best matchup for you to score points. So,
and lucky for you, Geno looks like he's going to play this week.
Yes.
And it's also that Metcalf was really, really shut down last week.
Yeah. DK's been. I mean, he wasn't. So, in our Yahoo league, I drafted DK in what was he? Maybe the fourth round, and then I got Mark Andrews in the 5th. Yeah, so probably 4th round. Expecting to get the previous season's DK where he was having, and he still gets all the targets. Like he gets a lot of targets every week, but they just haven't really turned into anything.
Right.
We talked about earlier in the season, it was against San Francisco when he had the wrong color cleat on, and then, where he stepped barely right on the back line, but he had a green cleat.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was super easy to see on that white.
Yeah.
He had like the neon green cleats. So, but, getting back to JSN, he's just finally taken off this season. I think maybe not secretly in the locker room. I think DK is probably actually really frustrated right now
I'm sure.
with his performance, but then also, just what's been going on with, mostly his stats and stuff and not getting the ball. And, kind of reminds me of AJ Brown a little bit where, nothing said publicly, but probably in the locker room, he's like, dude, give me the ball, keep throwing them, give me the ball. But
and if you look at DK, I'd give him the ball.
Yeah, this is scary too.
He is huge for a wide receiver.
Yeah,
I mean, just the size. Not that he's big and fat or anything. Mm-hmm. He's just a massive man.
Yeah,
broad shoulders, big muscles, just a big guy.
Yeah,
here's the ball. You can have my lunch money too.
Yeah.
So
was his dad a offense or defensive lineman? His dad played in the league, and he was a big boy.
Terrence?
Yeah. I don't know if that was his name.
Terrence Metcalf was a small running back.
Oh, I didn't know that. But his dad played in the league. DK's dad did.
Okay,
I didn't
know
he
that.
was either offense or defensive line. He was a big.
He was either on offense or defense.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. One of the 11 guys out on the field.
The other thing is that, of course, I'm going to draw a blank here. The third wide receiver, Lockett. He has not looked like. I mean, he's getting long in the tooth.
Yeah.
But it last year at least he was still involved a lot. In fact, I think I had him on one of my teams, the 16-teamer, as my third or fourth receiver. This year, I doubt he's on anyone's team.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Deep
probably on
leagues,
some dynasties.
Yeah, for sure.
Still, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
moving on, we've got our tight ends. We've got Kittle, Bowers, McBride, Kelsey, Andrews, Laporta. And I am going with one of the toughest matchups against San Francisco, Jonnu Smith. They are number 2 defense against...
Well, they just lost their all-world linebacker, Devondre Campbell, to hurt feelings.
Yeah. because Dre Greenlaw reclaimed his spot after tearing his Achilles last Super Bowl.
Yeah. So I guess... talking more about that, what I had heard apparently was that John Lynch, former NFL player, one of the scariest dudes to ever play the game. I mean, the guy knocked his brother-in-law unconscious in a game, like his brother-in-law at the time, I think it was on a kickoff or something, knocked him unconscious and got up and walked away like it was nothing. I mean, the dude is a monster, you know, and I guess he went down from the booth, you know, his private suite up there, down to the field and told Campbell to take a hike. And that's why Campbell walked into the locker room last week. Wow. And then I think they suspended him, I believe, for the rest of the season, and
so no one can
pick him up. Good.
Yeah.
They
didn't want him going and making a playoff run after he pulled that crap.
Yeah.
That's just, you know, well, we talked a little bit about it last week. Yeah. So, but you know, Jonnu still has a tough matchup, but you know, he seems to catch a touchdown every week, and
he's a big part of the offense. I mean, you know,
and I think it was this past week that Tyreek did nothing.
I don't remember. Yeah,
2 weeks ago, because they got the snot kicked out of them.
Yeah. Tua was really bad in that game, like 3 picks or something like that. Yeah. Like he was really bad last week. Yep. Yeah. But
so,
you know, I mean,
but Jonnu still gets his looks and his catches. So
yeah, I mean, super involved, and you know, if they're gonna want to win that game, they're gonna need him. So
they will.
I'm gonna stay. He's been, I guess, cooling a little bit, but stay in the mild heat of Pat Freiermuth against Baltimore. Obviously, Baltimore, I don't remember what they're ranked now. I think they've been better against receiver lately.
But are they good against tight ends?
They're kind of middle of the pack, I believe. It's not a great matchup for Freiermuth, but again, I think if in my opinion, I think if Pittsburgh's gonna have a chance at winning, I think he's going to be involved again this week. Pickens, I mean, super talented, good receiver, but he gets himself into trouble. He's so fun to watch because he just does whatever he wants.
Yeah, if he wasn't as talented as he is, if I were a GM, I would be looking to trade him as soon as possible.
Yeah, he'd probably end up like Kadarius Toney. But
I just how is it that you can get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct calls in the same game?
He did this in college when he was at Georgia. I mean, he got, I can't remember if he got like a 1 or 2 game suspension because he was throwing haymakers at a guy they were up against the stands, like all the padding on the stands in the back of the end zone, and him and another guy got into it, and he was just throwing haymakers.
Well, it was.
I mean, he's done this. Well, all I mean,
just a few weeks ago, he was complaining about something at the end of the game, and security was holding him against the back padding until people kind of cleared out and they could let him go. I mean, grow up. Yeah. You know, you're a grown-ass man.
It's the Steelers. I mean, they like crazy wide receiver, those crazy middle round wide receivers.
I mean, if I were Tomlin, I would chew his butt or sit him down I don't know that anything is going to get through his thick skull. No, I think that he's a detriment to the team when he does that.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. And I mean, Tomlin and the Steelers are so good at that, where they get the best out of these guys, and then they're like, "All right, done." And then, I mean, granted, Antonio Brown has his own problems, but
and it was called a hit.
Yes, the perfect hit. But I mean, they're really good at being like, "All right, we're out of this. See ya." At the right time they do that, and I have a feeling they'll probably end up doing the same thing.
Yeah, what do you think? You think they're going to pick up Deontay Johnson?
God, I saw that today that the Ravens waived him. I was like, wow, because they gave up. What did they give up?
I don't even know.
Was it like a 4th?
I was going to say like a 4th, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, what a because they suspended him for detriment unbecoming or something like that.
Yeah.
So That one's crazy.
So yeah, he passes waivers. I think 4:00 on Monday.
Yeah.
So
He'll get picked up somewhere, but whether it's
KC, Pittsburgh. I mean, he knows Pittsburgh.
Isn't Hollywood Brown coming back?
He is.
So,
That doesn't mean they wouldn't have interest in him.
it's true.
I mean, they had Kadarius Toney. I mean,
they did, they had him, and then that ended quick. And
I mean, there's a difference.
Two
I
weeks
think
ago, Kadarius Toney spent like 72 hours on the Browns and then got waived.
there's a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we know Deontay Johnson is a decent receiver.
Yeah.
We've never seen that from Kadarius.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
He never proved himself.
Yeah, he can't hold on to the
Right.
ball.
I mean, so I want to apologize for not having a Tuesday podcast. Austin wasn't feeling well, so we did have some info and actually, going over the injuries. The big one is Nick Chubb out for the season with a broken foot. Mahomes was injured. Jalen Waddle was injured. Alvin Kamara is probably not going to play this week because of his injury.
Same with Waddle. He was downgraded to doubtful. So.
Okay. Danny DeVito in the concussion protocol. He won't be playing this week. Geno Smith was questionable, but now it looks like he's going to play. Zach Ertz still in the concussion protocol probably, and then Sincere McCormick. He went from ankle week to week to being out, and I think they're putting him on IR.
Oh wow!
So it is now Amir Abdullah's job there. So some of the guys that we mentioned on the waiver wire were Jalen Coker, Tajay Spears, if he's still available.
Had the big game.
Rashad Bateman, big game.
Yeah.
He was pretty big in that. I mean, it seemed like every time I turned around, Bateman was catching a pass from Lamar. So Jerome Ford, obviously, because Chubb is out.
Yep.
And then I had Amir Abdullah because Sincere McCormick is out, and Ty Johnson. Ty Johnson seemed to last week. So
is he still on the Bills?
He's on the Bills.
Okay.
He was catching a lot of. So it's kind of like if it's first down and it's a potential running situation, you will see James Cook in there. If it's second down and long, Ty Johnson's in there.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm confused by, you're not running your best running back. And didn't he have 2 touchdowns this past week?
Yeah, I think he did.
And Ty Johnson still had a nice game.
Yeah.
So, if you're in need of a player, which, and the interesting thing is, so like in my 16-team league, once week 14 hit, once the first game of the playoffs start Thursday night, lineups lock.
Yeah.
So, I had never been in a league where I could, here it's championship weekend, literally the week 17 championship, and I can still pick up players. It seemed weird to me.
Yeah.
So, but if it's there, do it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Otherwise, that's all I've got for we've got for this week.
Cool.
I'm Ozzy.
And I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See you.